Hello and welcome to our channel. We collect and study reports based on true stories from around the world dealing with strange and peculiar events. To protect the identity of the individuals involved, names and some minor facts have been altered to tell the story. Case file number 151. Category: Parallel Universe. Location: Japan.
I was driving home from work one Friday evening, and my mind had started wondering about the middle-aged couple who came to see me for their regular marital counseling. I am a therapist, and I keep a small office away from my own home and closer to the center of the town. I've been meeting with this couple for over 2 years now, and I felt that they were not showing any signs of progress. The couple always looked unhappy, and they were not respectful and kind to each other. They have been married for 15 years now, but interestingly, they never mentioned getting a divorce. That was out of the question for them. I wish I could just snap my fingers and make everyone drop their stubbornness and love each other more. Over the years, I have tried many different methods to become more effective at my job. I tried playing soft music in the background using aromatherapy, chanting the lightning in the room, and even serving herbal tea to relax my clients' mind and body. I am also trying to learn how to heal people's stressful minds by mentally and energetically connecting with my clients, almost like what you see at a Reiki session, so that I can energetically send positive and healing energy to soothe people's minds. No, I am not a Reiki master, and I don't pretend to be one or give massages or ask my clients to lie down on a bed. I just sit across from them in my chair while I do my therapy session, and I try to imagine sending healing energy to them. It's still a work in progress, and I have a long way to go to achieve the effect that I am looking for, but I believe humans can give each other good vibes to make us feel happy. As I drove home, it started to rain, and that's the last thing I could remember. I was barely able to feel or see where I was, and my mind couldn't focus on my surroundings. But my body kept on driving that car home, almost like if I was in a trance, and I eventually got home. I do not remember how I got home, though. I do not remember the streets that I drove through at all. I must have driven for about 20 minutes since the rain started, but somehow, I arrived home with very vague and fuzzy memory about where I have been since the rain started. I walked into the house, and I heard my wife saying something to me, but it sounded like a distant, wobbled echo, and I could not pay attention to her. I looked at the calendar on my desk, but I couldn't make out what day it was. The numbers looked strange to me, and my eyes couldn't focus on the numbers too well. I just couldn't figure out what day it was. So I turned around and asked my wife, "Honey, what day is it today, including the year, please?" She said it was October 23rd, 2019. I thanked her and asked her again. "Oh, all right. Thank you, I got it. Now can you please tell me, what day is it today, including the year?" Apparently, I had repeated this same question many times throughout the night, and my wife started to write down the date and handed it to me. I'm sure my wife was annoyed but also worried about what had happened to me. I heard her say she was going to bed, and she left me in the room, where I continued to sit alone for hours. It must have been close to 4 o'clock in the morning when I finally decided to go to bed myself and got up from that chair. When I woke up the next day, I went to the kitchen to get my coffee, and I noticed a pile of memo papers on the table with dates written on them. I turned around and asked my wife, "What are all these memos with dates?" My wife responded, "Are you serious? You asked me what day it was so many times. I had to write them down and give it to you. It went on all night and I got tired of it, so I left you here and went to bed alone." I looked at the pile of memos and looked at my wife, and I realized something strange had happened to me last night. My wife asked, "How did you really get home? Are you sure you were able to drive yourself home last night?" I nodded my head slowly and walked over to my coat to look for my phone in my pocket. Then I noticed that I had received several voice messages, but none of them had any actual recorded messages. I showed my phone to my wife. "Look at this. I have all of these voice messages where the caller just hung up without saying anything. But it looks like all of these calls were made by me to my own phone. How is that possible? Why would I do that? I didn't even know you can call yourself." My wife looked at my phone and noticed that the timestamp on these calls were made before I entered the house. She remembered what time I had come home last night because she was cooking something and needed to keep a watch on the clock. Then slowly, I started recalling flashbacks of memory. Yes, I remembered that I did call myself. I remembered feeling trapped in a place, I do not know where, but I knew I was trapped somewhere in a void, like in another dimension, and I was frantically trying to call myself to tell myself something. Perhaps a warning. My wife asked if I was kidnapped. I told her, no, it was not like that. I was just in another dimension. There was nobody there and I couldn't see any walls, but I knew I couldn't get out of that space because I was not able to walk past a certain point in that space. I'd bang against an invisible wall. I do not know how to explain this. I think I better go to a doctor to make sure my head is all right. So I made my medical appointment and saw a doctor who specialized in neurology. The doctor examined me and scanned my head. He found nothing wrong with me. I explained to him about what happened to me that night in the car and the exchanges I had with my wife about me asking what day it was over and over. My doctor came up with a quick diagnosis. He said I must have suffered a temporary short-term memory loss, where things are forgotten within 30 seconds of their occurrence. But he explained that you retain your memory from before the onset of memory loss, and that's why I knew how to get home. He thinks I may have lost about 6 hours after the onset of this memory loss, where my brain just stopped recording and storing information about things that were happening to me during that time. I asked the doctor, why did it happen to me? It has never happened to me before. What caused it? He said it could happen to anyone if there is a sudden hard impact to one's head, but it's not something that is life-threatening, and it usually does not keep happening. He told me I should not worry about it because the test results showed that I was perfectly fine. I resumed my normal life, going back to work as a therapist and seeing my clients for marital counseling. But I noticed something had changed about me. I felt that I was making better progress with my clients, especially with the stubborn couple that I had mentioned before. I sensed I was making better connections with them, and their relationship seemed to be showing gradual signs of change for the better. The husband held his wife's hands. I have never seen him do that before in front of me. A few months had passed since my memory loss event. I felt like I was a better version of myself somehow, but I still couldn't understand why I remembered feeling trapped somewhere in a timeless space and frantically calling myself on the phone. I'm starting to think that I must have crossed over to a parallel universe, and while I was shifting into another world, my memory had stopped because my brain couldn't understand what it was experiencing. And who is to say that this is not common? Maybe we all experience this at one point in our lives. Maybe it happens all the time and we don't realize it. Had I lived alone without my wife, I may not have even noticed that anything strange happened to me. If I didn't see the pile of memo pads with dates written on them, I wouldn't have even known that I was asking my wife about the date when I came home. I would have just gone about my day the next morning and not remembered anything strange had happened to me. Is it possible that we can just slip in and out, to and from another parallel universe and experience this temporary short-term memory loss and keep on living our lives without even knowing this is happening? My wife also told me something that I didn't know. She said when I walked in that night, she couldn't tell that it was raining hard outside from looking at me because my coat was perfectly dry, and so was my hair and my shoes. She said I didn't have a drop of water on me. I can remember now that when I parked my car on the street in front of our house, I opened the door and stepped out into a very heavy rain, almost like a torrential rain beating down on earth. I should have been soaked when I entered the house. And why did I call myself on the phone? Was I trying to tell myself to remember what day it was that I had crossed over into the parallel universe? Did I leave another version of myself that got wet and soaked from the rain behind and pop into this world with a perfectly dried coat and hair? I can't make any sense of this now, but I'm actually glad that this all happened to me. I feel like a renewed version of myself, like I had received an upgrade. I also feel that I am more successful in counseling my clients as a therapist because I do see some changes happening to my clients in a way I haven't seen before. And of course, I have nothing to complain about my own marriage. I'm enjoying my life in this new parallel universe, and I hope all the other versions of myself in Parallel Universe are doing quite well and staying happy as well.
And this concludes our story. Case file number 151 closed. Thank you for watching.